Folks, it's the Blind Guy, and we're back with another good old movie recommendation. This episode, it's the seventh victim, and boy, this is a creepy one.
What does the world look like to someone who is visually impaired? Yes, tell us all what you see. What do you see? What do you see? Tell us what is right, what is wrong, what is art, what is vision. We welcome you to A Blind Guy's View.
Okay, so as you guys know, I like to review a couple scary movies around Halloween. I think last Halloween I did, I think it was last Halloween, I think I did Hollow Man and The Cat People, and I Walked with a Zombie. I think that was all last year. I know Hollow Man was last year. My Hollow Man review has got like 20,000 views or something like that. It's got a huge number of views, which is awesome. This episode, guys, though, is because I'm not monetized yet. We need about 200 more subscribers to get there. It sounds like a lot, but I actually think it's gonna happen fairly soon because it seems like we're gaining more and more subscribers as we do this. But because I'm not monetized, I always sponsor my videos with one of my books, and this is my first ever novel, Epica's Lily. As you can see here, done by yours truly. This is the hardcover version. You can get the hardcover paperback, or it's on Kindle, even Kindle Unlimited, so you can read it for free. Even just flipping through the pages actually helps support the channel. And it's a fantasy novel. I wanted to make it fairly simple and linear in the plot. I didn't want to do a whole bunch of world building. I get a little annoyed when authors do that. And so I wanted to be driven by characters and dialogue and the events in the story. And I think it does a good job with that. And as an author, you have a dashboard on Amazon, and you can see your books reviews long before they ever get posted. And I think a lot of that's so you can report something if somebody read the wrong book. I've had that before where somebody reviews the wrong book, and it's like not even my book. You can then report it, and then it never shows up. So I can see that this book is going to have 40 reviews soon at a 4.7 rating, and that's really good for a fantasy novel because fantasy readers are really picky. And so I wanted to say thank you to you guys because I think a lot of that's coming from you guys who have checked it out on Kindle because I haven't been advertising it that much until I get more reviews. And so the fact that I've got 40 people reviewed it is so awesome. And I thank you guys so much for doing that. And so, yeah, check that out. I think it's good. I think you guys will enjoy it. But let's get back to this movie, The Seventh Victim. First, we're going to take a little deep dive. What I do is I write out my thoughts and some of the information about the movie because being visually impaired, it would be hard for me to sit here and read it to you guys. You wouldn't want to hear that, and I wouldn't want to do it. And so I put it into something that I can have narrated and add some music to the background. So we're going to call that The Closer Look because it's kind of a funny joke on being blind. So here's the closer look on The Seventh Victim, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on the movie after this.
There's a quiet kind of terror that creeps in, where sunlight should feel safe, and that's the haunting mood of The Seventh Victim, released in 1943, directed by Mark Robson and produced by Val Lewton. It stars Kim Hunter as Mary Gibson, Jean Brooks as her troubled sister Jacqueline, and Tom Conway as Dr. Lewis Judd. The story follows young Mary, who leaves her boarding school when her sister mysteriously disappears, tracing her to New York's Greenwich Village, where she finds an empty apartment marked by a single chair and a hanging noose. Her search pulls her into the shadows of a secret society called the Palladists, a group of devil worshippers devoted to evil for evil's sake. What begins as a missing person mystery turns into a quiet, unnerving reflection on despair, isolation, and the thin line between faith and meaninglessness. When the film opened in August of 1943, audiences were baffled, and the box office showed it many walked out, calling it too bleak and strange. Critics at the time dismissed the writing, but praised its eerie mood and atmosphere. Over the years, the film has grown into a cult favorite, praised for its shadow-soaked cinematography by Nicholas Musuraca, its restrained and haunting score by Roy Webb, and its rare willingness to end in uncertainty rather than comfort. Today, it's remembered as one of the first horror stories to pull fear out of Gothic castles and drop it into the modern city, where evil feels disturbingly ordinary. Its tense shower scene moment is even said to have influenced Hitchcock's Psycho. Some modern critics have tried to read early queer undertones into the film, but that interpretation feels more like revisionism than reality. It seems these themes are more about the natural closeness between women in moments of fear, something later generations have been eager to reinterpret through a modern lens. From a conservative viewpoint, what stands out far more is the movie's quiet surrender to nihilism. There's no redemption, no moral victory, only the unsettling suggestion that despair may have the final word. Yet even in that darkness, the film's poetic beauty and psychological depth have earned it a lasting place in horror history. That's your closer look at The Seventh Victim by A Blind Guy's View.
There you go with the closer look, and as you can tell probably from that, I like this movie. I like it a lot. It's got a few things that I don't love about it, but I do really like this movie, and I think you guys would enjoy it too if you check it out. So let's first talk about what what makes it what makes it so good. Like, why is this movie? Why did it not do well in the theaters, and then why is it so good today? Why do people like it so much today? And I think 1940s audiences wouldn't have been ready for something quite like this. This movie is like, to me, there's two golden eras in with these classic movies. There's the 1940s and the 1970s. To me, most of the best movies come out of those two decades, and it's because those two decades had a bit of a grittier feel to them, and then they movies like drift and become a bit more cheesy in the 50s and 60s, and then they drift back over to start getting like The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff in the 70s, Alien, Black Christmas, and then they get more cheesy again in the 80s. So it's almost like once you go gritty, there's like a self-correction back to a cheesier approach. And you definitely see that in the 1950s horror movies. There's a few good ones like The Thing from Another World, and to me, Creature from the Black Lagoon's really good. But this one, I think that's one of the reasons it didn't do super well. Is it's very dark, it's very gritty, and like we talked about there in the closer look, it's took like all this mythos of horror movies out of these dark and dreary castles in Transylvania and Frankenstein's castle and stuff, and we're like, no, we're just gonna be in the big city. And I feel like the Cat People movie did that a little bit too. It was really interesting because you were like in this little town, and you just felt like you were. It just didn't feel the same as these other horror movies. Same thing with this one, and I don't think it's any coincidence that they have the same producer. And Walk with the Zombies the same way. Actually, you feel like you're just on this island, like in this old plantation island, and that's just not the case with a lot of those 40s horror movies. So it's very good there. The acting's solid, dialogue's solid. Um, the story to me influenced a lot of future horror movies. Like we did mention there it's definitely seems to have influenced Psycho, because you got this shower scene. There's somebody out on the other side of the shower curtain that she can see, but she really can't see. That's used in Psycho, and that feeling of when you're in the shower, you're like in your most vulnerable state, really, because you're in this enclosed area, butt naked, and you can't tell who else is just outside the shower. So it plays off of that. I thought that scene was very well done. And then to me, it seems like it has influenced several other movies that maybe weren't as explicit. It has this view of Satanists like they really are just a bunch of nihilists who are wealthy and bored with life. And so to me, if you looked into different viewpoints and religions and things, that's like one branch of Satanism, which is a real thing. And this movie focuses on that. So it's not the human sacrifice, burning people at the altar type Satanism. It's these like upper class people that are just bored with life and they don't think anything actually matters. So they just have fun with everything. Um, Kind of like the two guys in the movie Funny Games, if you've ever seen that. Like you could make an argument that they're like a nihilistic Satanist type character. But that was the first time, as far as I'm aware, and as far as I can tell, that was ever portrayed in a movie. And because I guess that I think it was RKO was the studio for this film, and I guess they actually sent the producer to hang out with Satanists in New York City, and that's how he came back with that notion. But I think that influenced then Rosemary's Baby because they're very similar in that movie. So they're like these like successful people that have an anti-Christian or anti-religious agenda to them. So I thought that was cool. It almost makes them a little creepier. It does something that I really, I guess Funny Games does this a little bit, but I've seen it in a few David Lynch films, and which obviously would come out after this one. So they may have influenced that a little bit. Who knows who influenced David Lynch because he was pretty one of a kind. But what can make something creepy is when you take a scene that's very dark and then you make the people in the scene, you make their reactions to the scene like backwards or upside down. So they're reacting in a blase or a almost a amused fashion to a very dark situation. And if it's done right, it can make it very, very creepy. And this movie does that several times where you're like, oh my gosh, if you think about what they're actually doing and then the people who are doing it, their actual demeanor, that that dissonance actually makes it even creepier. Um, there's another scene where I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there's a scene where a private investigator goes to investigate this locked room, and what happens to him, I literally went whoa while I was watching the movie, and it's a very cool scene. It throws a curveball at you. You don't expect it to happen, and it's great there. Then that whole concept of like a locked room that's been paid for in advance, and you're trying to figure out what's in there. That's done a little bit in Silence of the Lambs. There's another movie I can't remember the name of it, but it has something to do with the World's Fair in Paris. If you guys know, put it in the comments. That one had like a locked room, I think, in it too. And it's that idea of what's in this room that we're not allowed to go in is a really cool idea. And as far as I'm aware, this is the first one that had that in it. Um, Things that I didn't like about it, it's a little hard to follow what's going on. I've only seen it once, and even with the ending's fairly ambiguous. I had to look it up to like be like, what was going on with that ending? And I like the ending. I think it's cool because you don't always have to have a happy, feel good ending, which is usually the case in these Hays Code movies. So the 40s and 50s and even the 60s, they were like forced. You couldn't show any like malfeasance paying off. So a lot of them have like a very pigeonholed, forced, righteous ending at the end of them. And this one doesn't. I'm not actually sure how they pulled it off with the Hays Code, but they did. I mean, it's not like it's not really glorifying anything that's evil. So I think that's how they probably did it. It's just a very kind of ambiguous, like nihilistic, like we put in the review there, where what really matters, what's really good, what's really wrong, that kind of idea. Um, so I didn't love the ending, but also I didn't hate it either. And that'd be my only real gripe is the movie's a little bit hard to follow. Now I've only seen it once, so maybe on another viewing it would be better in that regard. But and then I've got like this beef with I watch these on Turner Classic Movies. You guys probably do too, 'cause that's the easiest place to find them. And I've got this beef with TCM now, where they've gone so far left wing on stuff, and they're so woke now that every single movie that has like any two male friends or any two female friends, Ben Makowitz, sorry, I don't like him. He gets up there with his pompous glasses and stuff, and he sits there and then, well, this was like one of the precursors to the queer movement, or this has queer undertones to it. And he just thinks he's so smart and stuff. And it's just like, no, it doesn't. It just has two female friends in it. Knock it off. Like, it's so revisionistic to me that you just see everything through those glasses when you look back at these movies. And I think that the creators of the movies would laugh at him in his face for saying something like that. Like, the same thing, and it's just like, I saw him talking about Soylent Green, and he's like, oh, this movie was like prophetic because it's exactly how New York City is today. And it's like, New York City average temperature was hotter when Soylent Green was made than it is today. So, like, shut up with that. Like, it's just, nobody's like sleeping remember in Soylent Green, they're like sleeping in the stairways because it's too hot and they can't find anywhere to, like, that didn't actually happen. Like, it's just when they see everything through this like left-wing agenda, it just gets super annoying. So, sorry, I went off on a soapbox there. It just annoys me when they do that. And I don't know who they think their clientele are. Like, who do they think watches these older movies? A bunch of blue-haired hippies in Portland, Oregon, or is it like a bunch of 80-year-olds are checking out these old? I would like to think it's probably the 80-year-olds are watching the classic movies, but. So who knows? To me, it just seems tone deaf and detached. But let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe you guys think these are all just a bunch of woke films made in World War II. But I don't think so. Other than that, so if you skip the ending of review of it on TCM, it's worth watching. Just got that nice creepy vibe to it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It uses some film noir style lighting, which is cool because that's usually not done in these horror movies. So you got like the cascading effect of light on people's shoulders, their faces as they're in alleys. It's got a few jump scares, which are rare for these 40s films. I'm not usually a fan of that, but it's done pretty well in this movie. It's not like the only way of creeping you out. And if I remember correctly, the cat people had like one of the most famous jump scares ever in it. So that might be the producers pushing that idea a little bit. But yeah, it's got a couple of those where I was like, oh, okay, got me on that one a little bit. Excuse me. So yeah, that's the 7th victim, 1943. I approve. You guys should check it out. And like I said, check my book out. That really helps. Even if you go flip through the pages on Amazon Unlimited or Kindle Unlimited, that still gets me funding. So yeah. Check that out, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of A Blind Guy's View. Laters on the Menjay.
Laters on the Menjay.
Night, stories written, pages bright, by his books, enjoy the sight. Oh, a blind guy's calling, hear his view, trivia tells and insights true, movies, myths, and books to choose. Raise your glass to a blind guy's view.